I'm Raul Ramirez of the Catch Wrestling Alliance, where we help you elevate your grappling and hopefully together we can keep real wrestling alive. We have a very special guest, an expert in her field, Maria Lee of Tribe Fitness in Richmond, British Columbia. Well, for us in the United States, we just call everything up there Canada, right?
Yeah, West Coast, so right above you.
Yeah, yeah, straight up, right near Vancouver, for those
Yeah,
of you who aren't simply not.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Or north of what, Seattle, right? That the Americans might know Seattle.
yeah,
Yeah, well, thank you very much for being here.
for sure. So happy to be here and to see you again. It's been a few years.
Yeah, yeah, too long. But
Yeah.
you actually are a very accomplished like athlete and trainer. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about your history?
For sure. Well, I've been running my business for 10 years now. So I started in 2014. And yeah, so it's been really amazing because just that whole from the decision to get out of the 9 to 5 and then to just take that leap and then incorporate and then to start getting clients and to keep building clients and maintain all the different areas of running a business to eventually be able to like save up enough to buy my place and stuff like that. Um yeah, I feel very blessed. And in terms of being an athlete, well, I wouldn't say I'm an athlete because I did do a couple of bodybuilding shows back in 2018, and I think that was around the time I met you, right? I
Hmm.
met you around there. And before that, I had been getting into like kickboxing and jujitsu and stuff like that, and I was really into that. So yeah, I would say in terms of the fitness, like my own fitness training, it definitely has been more focused on just overall bodybuilding, calisthenics. I haven't done too much MMA in the last little while, but bodybuilding wise, when I did my first show, I was able to get bronze, so not number three, third place in that show. So that qualified me for the next level, which was the Vancouver Pro Am, which I technically wasn't even allowed to qualify for because I was supposed to qualify for the next year. However, I just registered not knowing this, and they made a special exception for me, and I was allowed to compete in that show, which was just 3 weeks later. So I had to maintain my prep for I had to extend it for another 3 weeks. Um, oh, is that your cat?
Oh yeah,
Oh
he
my god,
just
that's awesome! I love
yeah,
cats.
yeah,
Cool.
Rufus.
Yeah. Ah. Yeah, so I was able to enter that show, which was a huge, I guess, an advantage because then I could just basically do two shows back to back, and I was able to get. Sorry, my first show I got second place, so that qualified me. Third show in my division, Bikini Open, I got third, and so that was a real just a really magical period of my life because it wasn't so much just focusing on the training of it, like the sheer physical work of it, but it was very much the mental and psychological training I did to get myself to a headspace and to an energetic place where I felt like I was meant to win. And I think that's what we're gonna kind of like go into in today's episode, right?
Yes, that's exactly what we're gonna talk about like right now, because basically, yeah, there's so many different things that go into like competition and stuff. So we often talk about actually, well, I think maybe hopefully we can do some kind of series where we talk about all these different aspects. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was thinking today maybe we can go ahead and focus on that, like the mental aspect.
Yeah. So if just so I get a better understanding of what your viewers usually tend to struggle with, or maybe a block that they have? Is it not feeling like they perform on the spot, like they prepare, they train for it, but then when it actually comes time to actually be in the ring, then they don't perform the way they want? Do you
Yeah,
fear?
yeah, actually, there's kind of a lot to it where it's like people can be training and maybe doing very well, like they get to a good level of proficiency in the gym, so they perform very well in the gym, but then there's all these steps that go into being able to perform during competition, right?
Mhm.
So it's like we can even kind of talk about that, where it's like some coaches, like some university coaches that I like to follow, they talk about where it's like sometimes you kind of have to do like you're never going to be your gym self in competition unless you compete a lot. So, um, uh, go ahead and maybe hopefully that was enough of a prompt, right? To thoughts on that, because
Sure.
yeah, there's like a big jump from
Right.
while in the gym to performing in
Right.
competition.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think that it's really important for us to take some time, not only in the actual training aspect, whether with your sparring partners or not, but to actually take time to work on, I guess you can call it imagination training or visualization. So that sort of technique is basically where you envision yourself in the situation where you want to perform well. Okay. So there's a lot of research on how our bodies, will react to our imagination, what we imagine to be true. So if we're thinking of a scenario, say I'm thinking of a scenario right now where I'm on a roller coaster, my heart rate will start to go up, and I'll start to feel my body enter into fight or flight, because what I'm imagining is what it thinks it's going to actually happen right now. Okay. So that's super powerful. That is a really, really powerful piece of information that we can use for our own benefit. And it's what I used for my bodybuilding shows as well. Okay. So basically, taking what you know of the, say, like the arena you're going to be in, the ring you're going to be in, and bringing, sorry, and envisioning, all the components of that environment. So say, the ring is what's like a common competition arena, like in LA, say.
Oh, yeah, a large like gym with a bunch of mats all over the place. So they'll have separate, like maybe several competing areas.
Yeah. Okay. So say you know what that gym is. You know the name of it. So you take time, you take, say, 10 minutes out of your day every day. You imagine yourself walking out of your car to the door. You imagine yourself feeling just so on fire. You're so confident. You know you got this in the bag. Okay. You envision yourself walking into that gym. Your heart rate is down. Everything is under control. You're calm, right? You're like you essentially take, like, training your mind like this as seriously as training your body, because your body will follow where your mind is. Okay. And so if you take time to envision yourself in that ring, you warm up, you do all your warm up things, and you just envision yourself taking your, like, going through that entire process, and then finally it's your turn. They call your name and you're up. Your heart rate is still low. You're not scared, you're not nervous. You might have some butterflies, but it's no problem. And you imagine, who your opponent is, and then you imagine all the different moves that they might make, and then you imagine what you are going to do to counter them. Okay. So that way, when you actually come into that physical space, it's not the first time that you're entering that space. And it's not the first time that your body is entering that space. Okay. So you have literally taken the time to train yourself so that you're prepared for the future. And I mean, this might sound like a little bit woo woo or whatever, but there's so many books on this, and there's so many athletes who have done this. Like a big one, like Conor McGregor. You know, he's a bit like his life is a little bit silly now, but his journey, his rise up, was meteoric, right? He went from nothing in Ireland or whatever, somewhere, just a total shit small town, and then he just kept imagining himself winning and winning and fighting and winning and fighting and winning, and then he got to the top. You know, there's so many documented videos of him talking about that, and I've watched almost all of them, because I mean, like, our mind is our most powerful ally or our most powerful enemy, right? So if we are able to harness the power of our mind, and we not only and we not only, you know, do all the things, you learn all the moves, you look like learn all the holds, you get stronger, you know, but you actually train yourself to be there emotionally, psychologically, and energetically, then I think that will really, really increase your chances of, one, performing well, and two, possibly winning, right? Because the goal here is to win. It's like, if the goal is to win, then you're gonna do everything you can to win, right? So I think that's a huge, what's it called? Like a card up your sleeve, so to say. Um, and I'll share with you what I did during my bodybuilding prep. So I've like watched so many videos of different people, you know, really, really successful people who have used this same technique. And so I've been using it for myself, for my own life, to take myself from, you know, just being a poor kid here to like having actually accomplished things, and to be able to become um financially healthy and independent, right? So even when I was doing my bodybuilding shows, I hired a coach, right? And it was about an hour's drive from where I live. And, you know, like, I did all my DD, I read all the reviews, and, you know, she was like very well known in this community in Vancouver. And then so I went out and started with her. And, you know, every week on Sundays, there was a posing class. So I joined a little late, and I had about 3 months or so to prep. Okay. My body weight at that time was pretty lean. I was lean, and I was pretty, yeah, not like needing to lose, you know, too much fat or anything like that. I had been doing kickboxing for a while, so I was actually in a really good condition state. Okay. And then so I started doing posing with them, but I felt like it was just not enough for me to do well. Like, it wasn't enough for me, right? Like, I like, the reason I went and started, you know, prep and to like try to do a show is because I wanted to represent vegan bodybuilding. Like, I wanted to represent fitness that was able to be, you know, without the consumption of any animal products. So there was nobody doing that at that point in time, and I wanted to go and represent that. So it wasn't just for me as an individual, but it was for more of like a, I would say, like a greater cause kind of thing. And so I started watching all the shows of the top IFBB pros, like all the girls in bikini and physique. I just studied them and looked at exactly how they walked and their faces and how they posed. And I started to ingrain inside of myself like absolute confidence. And I started to imagine what it would be like on stage, and all the lights and the people that you can't see, right? You get up on stage. Like, if you can control your breathing, you can control your mind, then you can accomplish anything no matter where you go, right? So I started to watch that months back, right? So I just kept watching, kept improving my posing on my own. Like, every day I'd be at the gym for 3 hours. I would do my training for about an hour and a half, then do cardio for 30 minutes, then do posing for at least 30 minutes. And then later at night, I would study all the posing again, right? And then I thought, like, to myself, if I want to win, I have to find the best of the best. Of course, you have to find the best of the best to study, and then that way you'll be leagues ahead, right? So when when it was time for my show, like I felt so good. I didn't feel nervous. Like it was fun. It was exciting. I felt like, wow, like this is it. And I felt so excited to be there. And then when it came, like when they called me up, they called my number up, and then I step on stage, and I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like this is no problem. I'm like at home here because of all the work I did in my own head for months before. You know what I mean? So like, I felt so confident, and like part of bodybuilding, like a huge part is your stage presence. Like you just be so like charismatic and like magnetic, right? You smile at the judges, you make eye contact, you're like so in the zone, like you are dominating, like seriously dominating. People say bodybuilding, is this and that, but it's actually quite similar with fighting, right? Because it's just you by yourself. There's no team element to it. Like at the end of the day, it's you entering into that arena by yourself. So how you choose to conduct yourself, I mean, it's like make or break, right? So when I stepped up on stage, I was like, so it was like I had actually all my clients there. There were like 25, 30 people there cheering for me, and I'm like just smiling at the judges, and like my calf cramped at one point, but I mean that's what happens. Yeah, and I was just like I felt so good, like so confident, and then I got second place, my first show, and the girl that won first, she had been competing for 3 or 4 years. I won out of everybody else. I'm really positive it's because of all that mental work I did prior. Okay. So, I mean, it can't hurt to make yourself feel more confident, right? Like you can do all the hard work, bust up all your joints, right? Like come out of training every day from the gym. But if you're not securing yourself and aligning your mind and your psychological state to what you want to achieve, then all those things are going to be inadequate. Okay.
Yeah. I think I really like a lot of the things that you brought up, where it's like, yeah, you're doing a lot of or you did a lot of the mental work, but you also did the physical work as well. So it's like you had that foundation, and then the mental aspect is still super super important, but it's like the next step of that, like that beyond just the physical.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
actually, I do want to say one thing real quick. So people like, so how you mentioned like how important, or basically how your body kind of follows your mind. I think I want to just add where how serious that is from like a medical perspective. So say,
yes.
yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So then the even if say like if you're in a work scenario or anywhere, and say if someone insults you, and you feel insulted, your body still reacts with that fight or flight reaction. So your body will release. You get some little inflammation. Your body will try to repair itself from a physical wound. Even though it was just something you heard, right? No one's actually touching you, but they just said something that made you feel bad. Your
Yeah.
body reacts as though it's been physically wounded. So same thing with the way you're thinking about competition. Your body doesn't really intellectualize away kind of what you're thinking, what you're seeing. And so, yeah, maybe people maybe need to be kinder to themselves, right? A lot of times it's like the
Mhm.
negative, like you've defeated yourself psychologically before you even go out there, right?
Such a good area to talk about next. That's so important. I mean, this really takes a level of, or a desire to grow your self awareness, because, like, all of us, we just have thoughts that constantly run through our heads, like, all day, right? And just like you said, I mean, if you're not careful and you're not kind to yourself and you're not thinking, you're not managing your thoughts and whatever's in your head to be actually self-empowering, then you've already kind of lost the battle. Like if you're saying to yourself, oh, like, why am I so weak today? Or I don't know, like people always say a bunch of stuff, right? Like, oh, I'll never be as good as that guy, or da 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 da. Like whatever people say. It's really, really important to become aware of what the heck is going on, and then to be aware of the fact that you can change it and replace it with better thoughts that are better serving of you. So, I mean, thoughts like that, like even if someone says something like that to you, it will definitely weaken you, right? It's just like every time you have something that's inflammatory, you're becoming weaker and weaker. And so if you're thinking things to yourself, saying things to yourself that are weakening you, then you're already, I mean, that's not optimal. And also, I think it's important for us to examine the like deeper beliefs we have about ourselves, right? Like a lot of the beliefs we have about ourselves stem from like what we experienced as little kids. So like the formative years, like before we even turned 6 years old. And then a lot of that we don't remember. But then we'll grow into adulthood having all these assumptions about ourselves or about life. And if we're not careful about really identifying what they are and replacing them with higher quality, more empowering versions, then we're going to have a real hard time struggling not only at the gym or in the ring or whatever, but like just in other areas of life. So,
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that, like, say, everyone listening or every athlete, just in general, really needs to take into consideration because, yeah, we talk about like, the mental prep for competition, but it's, actually quite often, if not like for everyone, there's like some deeper root that it could open the door to you examining why you're not as confident, or
yeah,
there's usually something there, like how you mentioned, like
yes.
from early on, and so you don't like they just know that, yeah, it's like actually there's one kind of reminded me of actually this one book, not so much to do with psychology, but it was talking about psychological aspects and like people and their personalities, where it's like we often say like there's layers of an onion, right? You always peel back all the layers, but
Mm. Hmm.
when you talk about a human being, you're not necessarily gonna get a root because it's like kind of all layers. So it's like you start wanting to do mental training, you're gonna start uncovering these layers, and then you can keep on going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I might, like it is something worthwhile to kind of to see, because I think not only in sports, it might even help you in all aspects of your life, like for the rest of your life, if you can kind of deal with what, like, this negative self-talk and all these things that are holding you back in your sport, they could also be holding you back in your day-to-day life, right?
Yes, for sure. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's so important to really identify all those limiting beliefs. Like, for example, like I'll just give a really personal example about how my parents were when I was a kid growing up. We were very Catholic, but this version of Catholic was very much like it's good to suffer when you're alive because that means that you deserve to go to heaven more. So the less you have, the more fortunate you are. So the more poor you are, the more likely you'll get to heaven. Um, and so we grew up like in the like shittiest. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that because there's definitely projects in America and stuff. But we grew up in some rundown rentals. My parents never cared to like, actually establish ourselves as a family, right? My father was never able to make any money. He didn't care to make any money. He was yeah, like just a little mentally unwell. So my mother was the breadwinner, and like their whole like it's like you shouldn't make money. Money is evil. I'm sure lots of people out there remember their parents saying something like this, right? Money is the root of all evil. If you're rich, you're a bad person. If you have money, you're a bad person. Money always corrupts people. So it's good to not have money, and God will always provide. So you don't have to worry about what tomorrow brings. You don't have to prepare for anything. You don't have to plan for your future. You don't have to maintain anything. Like, it's just this like complete relinquishing of all your responsibility as a human being. Okay. So I grew up in that sort of psychological environment, and I became aware of how, let's say, unhealthy this was in my late teens. And that was when I started to really dive into personal development, because I didn't want to end up that way. Like, I didn't want that to be the trajectory of my life. Right. So I got into personal development, like all the different ways to examine myself and to reflect on all the crap that's inside of me and all the bad patterns, like thought patterns I have, behavioral patterns I have, and to slowly work on shifting them to thoughts and patterns that were a lot more empowering, that would set me up for actually a good life here. Right. So like, it's so deep though, like you said, like seriously, like an onion. You think you hit something, but boom, you find something else where you're like, I'm sabotaging myself in this way because of all the shit I heard 30 years ago. Right. Like, money for me has been one of my biggest blocks. It's been one of the biggest, let's say, challenges, like to become good friends with, just because of all the stuff that I had heard as a kid, and that like how we lived. It was like truly like, like to try to like really shift yourself from that sort of mindset and that environment to create something new for yourself can be very scary, and it can be very difficult because you don't have any modeling that you can turn back on, right? So you literally have to create something totally new for yourself, a new way to live for yourself. But that's how so many of us have to live. Right. I'm not thankful for that. I'm so grateful for that, because that means I've been able to develop so much self-awareness and to have a reason to become self-aware. Because being self-aware is like a real freaking advantage. If you're self-aware, then you can become aware of other people and how they are. You can become aware of situations and how they are. You can become aware of all the different dynamics and how people operate. And then what you can do is just adapt yourself to those situations, or change yourself, modify yourself to then win in those situations. Because you realize with that self awareness that you don't have to be attached to any labels, right? I mean, if I wasn't careful, I could have been one of those people, like growing up with my parents. I could have been one of those people who grew up thinking, truly, yeah, money is bad. I shouldn't want to strive for more. It's okay to just live a mediocre life and to just wait for God to save me at the end. I very well could have been one of those people. So, like, for all your listeners, like, if there's something that you feel, weakened by or repulsed by, or like you're like, oh, I just I feel I don't love myself, or I don't respect myself, then I mean, really digging into where that comes from is going to serve you so well. Because honestly, if you don't have that self-respect, or you just feel like you just don't have that belief in yourself, then like that's a big hole. Like, that is a big hole that if you don't put attention to and start like really learning how to fill with love and like care for yourself and that kindness for yourself, then you're going to be operating kind of at half mast, right? So yeah, self-awareness.
Yeah, yeah. So I think people like who might have a passion for grappling, wrestling, truly any kind of sport, right? It's like you can like pursue that passion and still think of yourself positively, and you're not being selfish for wanting to pursue that. And
Do
uh,
people think that, like, people feel it's a bit selfish?
well, I think sometimes, like, kind of like going along with like what you're saying, it's like some people might feel like, oh, like they might not be thinking like how you mentioned, like Conor McGregor, seeing themselves as being able to beat other people who might be like already at the top. So
uh
having this kind of like a more of a meek mindset where they go, "Oh, I can't compete, I can't beat these other people." So I think that's they're seeing themselves in a more a meek or maybe almost a more impoverished view of themselves that they'll never be able to achieve in competition. But it you have to change your mindset, right? Because if you like something, you feel passionate about it, you should do it, really, or try to
And
find
try to
ways to.
be better at it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because what is, I mean, of course you can just grapple and just enjoy, I guess, recreational grappling then, right? Without attempting competition. But if you attempt competition, then you don't go and compete to lose, right? You
Mhm.
go and compete to win. So if you're taking that, you decided to take that step, but your mindset is not set up in a way where you think you can win, then something has to change here. Because then you're going to compete to lose. And that doesn't make any sense, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
It's just not even logical. So if you're not going to compete to win, you don't think you can win, then you have to change your own mind about that. You have to change your physical ability, and then you have to change your mental beliefs. Because if you're gonna go compete, then you're better freaking try to win, or you're just gonna get stomped on by the other dude, right?
Mhm.
Like it just doesn't make sense to try to enter a competition and even waste that other person's time because that guy's training hard to try to beat you. So if you're not even taking yourself up to that level and rising up to the challenge, and you already believe like, oh, I can't really do it, well, something has to change. Like it's not even fair to the other guy. You're not bringing your best, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, but yeah. So I think kind of showing that like there's really this whole spectrum of things that kind of like go into someone not only competing but then competing well and winning. Uh,
Mm,
so I think that's kind of what I wanted to highlight because so I remember when I was doing a lot of kickboxing, I did like the kickboxing national tournament, and I did.
cool.
Yeah, it was funny though because yeah, I didn't. I think I wanted to try to be more humble and all that, so didn't really go in confidently, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So, but I think I still did well. So I would still get for first couple tournaments, I got like second place as well. But then
Nice.
I was just like, no, I want a gold medal. So then, yeah, then I kept training, and then I think that yeah, maybe there was that mindset shift where it's just like, no, I'm gonna get this gold medal, and and it was the next tournament was the national tournament in kickboxing. So then, yeah, I went and. I think I was way more determined. I had, I guess, that mindset shift kind of happened. So then, yeah, I was able to win 2 years in a row the national tournament.
See?
Yeah,
Exactly. That's amazing. Seriously.
yeah. So yeah, I think you're right. And then, but yeah, so hopefully, if anybody's like listening, then like they can maybe, and if they're struggling, right, maybe they can identify like maybe what state, because like we mentioned, like there's so many different layers, right? And so if they are struggling, maybe they can see which kind of layer is giving them the most problems and kind of dig into that. Uh,
Hmm.
it isn't like an overnight change or an overnight switch, right? It's usually, yeah, you have some experiences and then it's up to you to decide whether you're going to switch that mindset or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it could be something as innocuous as like, maybe your dad saying one time, like, oh, you're just a scrawny little kid. Like one little comment you hear and it just gets implanted into your subconscious. Right. So, like, yeah, it really could be anything, but that's where that taking that time to learn about yourself and to delve into how your relationships with the people close to you were and how they treated you, yeah, that'll really help.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your insight. I mean, is there anything else that maybe you'd like to mention?
Ooh, I mean, yeah, I had a thought earlier when you were talking. um oh, no, that's not mindset.
It can
uh,
be anything. You can talk about
well,
it.
Okay, so I'm a fitness trainer, and I'm, very much a proponent of like holistic wellness. So definitely, not just focusing on certain components of your health, but like as varied as possible, right? As I'm sure you are too. So I think if we are taking the time to train frequently throughout the week, and we have our eyes on a competition, then I think it's super important not only to focus on the mental work, the psychological training, but also to make sure all the other areas of your lifestyle are supporting you in your goals, right? You don't want to have one thing that's throwing you off and sabotaging you. So just real quick about like about your nutrition, your water intake, your sleep, your screen time. Now that's a big deal for people nowadays. Like, it's such a bad habit. And just making sure we're doing the best we can in all the different areas of our lifestyle. Not eating like processed foods that are going to damage like various functions of your body, or like staying away from pop, like sugar, like messing with your insulin, getting adequate sleep so you recover better and you're like good to go for the next training day. Water, of course, making sure you're drinking lots of water. Like, a lot of people are really bad about that nowadays. Like, they don't, they just somehow just like are a little lazy about water. And I mean, like, we're like 70% water, so we kind of need that stuff, okay? And not in the form of like a Starbucks frappe or something, but like an actual just like good filtered water, making sure you're getting just that hydration into your body. Um, yeah, so basically covering all fronts, like physical, like training, mental game, emotional game, like really identifying all the different weak areas you have in your own head that might be throwing you off or sabotaging you, and also making sure your lifestyle and all the various elements of it support you in pursuing your goals if you want to win in the gym.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Do you think maybe you'd be able to come back on in the future? Because
Yeah, for
nutrition thing is
sure.
actually,
This was so fun. And I love talking about this stuff. And honestly, I think it would be great if any of your viewers, if they have a certain question, or, a little thing maybe they want to talk about, that we can integrate that into our series, and then just, answer questions or explore different topics that people might be interested in.
yeah. So please ask questions in the comments. So, because yeah, even the nutrition thing. So the nutrition thing actually really also supports the psychological aspect, because a lot
Oh,
of
yeah. Mm,
transmitters, right, are
yeah.
really involved with your digestion. So yeah, then maybe we can maybe talk about that next. Well, depending on what kind of comments we get, what is like, whoever's listening or watching, like, let us know your pressing issues, and we'll gladly
Yeah.
give our opinions.
Yeah. 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 We want you guys to win. So, yeah.
Okay, so all the contact info for Maria is in the description. But I mean, do you want to mention like how people can find you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it would be great to connect with you guys, especially if you're in LA, because we're like north south, friends. My Instagram is at meat free Maria Lee. So meat free, with two E's, and then Lee with two E's. And if you want to check out my business at all for any reason, it's at www.tribefit.ca. So that's TRIBE and then FIT.ca in Canada. I do have a YouTube, but it's kind of what's it called, in hibernation right now, so I'm not really doing much with it. But it's essentially, I'm pretty sure it's still just meat free Maria Lee. So if you want to check out some of my videos that I've talked about, where I've talked about, like different philosophies and psychologies and stuff like that, like just in that space, feel free. Otherwise, see you in the next one.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. See you in the next one.
Yeah.